music was my escapism. Even though it wasn't allowed, I had a little tape player. I'd listen to radio and record the songs, but I'd never experienced it in a club. And I remember seeing Bonobo live, and it was the first time experiencing electronic music in all its pieces. And I was like, whoa, suddenly electronic music became bigger than just this, kind of computer sound.
This episode of Music Not Diving is brought to you by Jägermeister's Save the Night. Born in 2020 as part of the emergency response to the pandemic, Save the Night has since grown into a global platform that provides support for people and ideas keeping nightlife alive. Through its annual fund, Jägermeister provides €156,000 to provide mentorship, funding, and visibility for a range of bold projects, from stuff like making dance floors more accessible, greener club nights, and amplifying voices from grassroots creative communities. Nightlife is more than just entertainment. It's culture, it's connection, it's community, and together we can protect it for the future. Applications are open right now for the Save the Night Fund. If you're a creative, a promoter, a venue owner, or just someone who cares deeply about making our culture safer, more inclusive, and just generally better, then this is your chance to bring your vision to life. Check out Jägermeister.com/exploration/save the night. That's Jägermeister.com/exploration/save the night. Music Not Diving is brought to you by Acid Nation. What is Acid Nation? Well, it is a direct-to-consumer platform. So if you're selling music as an artist or a label, or if you're a music fan just looking to buy direct from your favorite artists or labels, this is a great place for you to be. What is the difference between Acid Nation and other D2C platforms? Well, they have a ton of ancillary services, extras that they do that goes above and beyond the other players in this space. For example, they have their own pressing plant. They can fulfill vinyl orders on demand, ship them out directly to your fans. That is basically unprecedented in the sector. They have a streaming platform built into their platform, which pays out 1 cent per stream, the mythical 1 cent per stream, pretty amazing. They have free storage and a fulfillment service. So this is just a great thing, generally speaking. We use it for Hot Flush recordings. We couldn't recommend them highly enough. And of course, they're also supporting your favorite music podcast, which is of course this one. So I suggest you head over to acidnation.com and check them out.
This is Music Not Diving with Scuba.
Welcome to Music Not Diving. I'm Scuba, and if I look slightly bleary-eyed, it's because we are at ADE. It's Thursday. I am joined by Beatport's Chief Community Officer, Sofia Ilyas. How are you doing, Sofia?
Hey, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
Yeah, right. So what brings you to ADE?
I'd say firstly, I'm a part of the new ADE Green section, which is on Friday, and it's a focus on more sort of social causes and sustainability and community, and it's at quite an accessible price, like €125 for the whole day. And it's in the main Felix building. I just thought it was a great initiative that they're launching this year.
Okay, nice. So what does the Beatport Chief Community Officer do? What does that entail?
That's a good question. It was something I had to ask myself when I first started the role. It's like, okay, what is this role going to be? And I think there was two options in my mind. One was for it to be quite internal, and the other one was for it to be more external. And I chose the external route and to support organizations, and especially there's a lot of organizations out there that are minority led, voluntary positions, and I felt that a good use of my time was to support them. And then from there, it kind of grew into events around the world, focused on learning. A lot of my work is based on what I hear from the community and what they were telling me they wanted from Beatport. And it sort of kind of rolled from there, really. Okay,
so specifics, please. Like, what are the big things that you consider to have achieved in this?
I definitely...
So how long have you been doing it for, sorry?
Almost 3 years.
Right, yeah.
I'd say the one thing that I'm really proud of is our community events. And last year I went to like Tokyo, Melbourne, New York, LA. This year was in Mexico, also Johannesburg, and just listening to what people said about their experiences of panels and discussions, they felt that brands often have them with international artists in English, can't always quite understand it. So hearing that, I was like, okay, we're only going to have local artists that inspire the local community. It's going to be in the local language. So in Japan, I didn't understand any of it, but we were all smiling and very happy. Yeah, I'm like, even my bit when I spoke was translated, and I could just see how grateful they were around that. It took me 3 months to get DJ Nobu on the panel, and could just see like when people see an artist in front of them, like in Johannesburg, so all these kids and Zakesman Tweenie is in front of them doing a workshop. And you could just see them so inspired by that and thinking, maybe I can do it too. And the events were always free drinks. And I think just through doing them, I think it's given Beatport a sense of maybe what they should be doing in the community and giving back and providing help in those cities where they really feel kind of alone. Even somewhere modern like Melbourne, you speak to the artists and they say, yeah, there's a lot of loneliness felt, even in a place like LA. And especially in Melbourne, they're like, well, the only way I can achieve something is by leaving my city and coming to places like Berlin. And then you start thinking about, well, what does that city then lose? And
it's kind of brain drain, right?
Yeah, exactly. So for me as well, a lot of when I go around these places, I take that learning back to Beatport and the curators and the label teams, and I'll say, oh, we should do this and we should do that. So yeah, like I said, a lot of it is being on the ground, listening, and then taking that feedback back into the.
So you're talking external community is basically the people, customers, basically, to look at it like that. Like, was it
actually not
also labels and other people who are involved with? Yeah.
On my side, not so much the customer in terms of our current buying audience. It's those sort of young artists that are thinking about DJing or thinking about entering into the music industry.
So it's just like the scene, generally speaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Specific.
I think it is our responsibility as a company to think about those people and to think about our responsibility to help. There's a lot of senior people at Beatport, so much knowledge that sits there, and why not help a young person connect to a label or get exposure on Beatport through our socials. There's a lot of things we can do to help the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you're saying this, my kind of cynical music industry kind of voice at the back of my head is saying this is actually also a very good kind of marketing strategy for Beatport, because I mean, the image of Beatport over the years has been, it's a little bit tricky, with people. It's one way to think about the platform, which I think I've always thought is a bit unfair, actually, because it is still the biggest, by far the biggest platform for, for DJ downloads. And I've always thought they do quite a good job, generally speaking, but that's not always it's not always the view, is it?
Yeah, like if you go to socials in terms of these events that we did last year, you won't see them blasted all over our socials. Like you won't see it being like, look what we did. So I was very mindful of that. And even when it came to content around diversity in these organizations, when I first joined Beatport, we couldn't have posted it on socials. It was a very meme-led account. There was a lot of sort of toxic comments, especially when female DJs were posted. So that was work that we needed to do before we even got to a place of posting the content that we are posting now and is being received well. So the first year was also a lot of work to reframe things within the company, money that was spent in certain places. As an example, if you're doing an online campaign for Pride, right? Yes, everyone sees it online, but is that really where we should place that money?
Sure.
Should we give it to the organizations who are living and breathing that, who are queer themselves as well? It happens a lot in companies and brands where it's a room full of white men,
right?
Coming up with a campaign and not one of them is gay or queer.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, it's kind of, we should be doing this because we should, kind of thing, without too much sort of actual knowledge, like proper knowledge of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think I kind of like to sit in the middle and connect people. Okay. And hey, in terms of like marketing, if there's good exposure out of it, great. But for me, it's less about that there's exposure for Beatport, it's that there's exposure for those organizations. And like we've had a lot of organizations say through the work we've done with them, they've been able to get other funding elsewhere. They've used our name, and I'm like, do it. Use our name as much as you like, to your benefit. So
yeah. Was this a new role that was created?
Yeah, it was. It was a new role that was created. They decided to place it on that C-suite level. So coming into the role, it was a bit daunting. I have worked with multiple DJs, but I've never worked for a DJ brand. And I was also allowed to sit outside of the company. I wasn't in product. I wasn't in the marketing team. I was allowed to build my own team, have my own budget. So yeah, it's definitely spent the first 6 months listening to people and their views. And like you said earlier, not everyone's view is positive.
I was going to say, yeah.
I think that's where you were going. So let's just say that about Beatport. So I just wanted to make sure I kept a very neutral position. And I just wanted to hear everyone's point of view, as many people. And I have to say, in that sense, people were very welcoming towards me. They did open up. They did give me their feedback. And I was never going to force someone to like the brand. But it's been great that, yeah, some people do now feel a connection to Beatport. And that's great. But I'm not here to force people to buy from Beatport.
Sure. I mean, Beatport has had its problems internally as well, hasn't it? I just remember as you were saying that there was a few, or maybe one in particular, quite incident of bad publicity. Was that happened before you joined? Was that more than 3 years?
It happened before I joined. Yeah. I think about a year before I joined.
Right. So is there a bit of clearing up to be done with the kind of fallout from that specifically, or?
I think from my perspective, and one of the reasons why I chose to focus on external community, I wasn't there when that happened. A lot of people, majority had been let go by then. And I didn't want to be in a place where I'm answering for the internal side of Beatport. Yep. I just wanted to jump on helping people as fast as possible. So I guess a lot of people are aware of what happened. But I am glad that Beatport recognized that they needed help and they needed to get someone in, and they were willing to focus on that. Intentions can sometimes be blurry around these things, but yeah, they definitely gave me the freedom to exercise what I felt I should be doing with a role.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds extremely positive, actually, and it sounds like you've been successful in your aims.
Have tried.
Yeah, right.
Have tried, but
where do you? I mean, do you feel like this has been a process, and is it an ongoing process to continue to build the kind of things that you've been talking about? I mean, where do you feel like you are on the kind of path?
With Beatport or on a personal level?
We've got lots to talk about. Initially to Beatport, but yeah, just speaking on Beatport for a moment.
I do think we've gone from a brand that wasn't maybe doing what we should be doing in terms of community to now potentially even leading on that sense. Like, we did an event just recently in LA where we had 300 young people come by, and we put on 8 panels for them and at a very accessible price of $50, gave half of it to charity, and just seeing like 200 people always packed into the room listening. And I'm like, okay, it's working. Like, we're doing the right thing and we're connecting. And that in that sense, like, the Beatport staff are coming to that. They're seeing it. They're engaging in a physical experience that they're seeing working. And yeah, I think they are in such a good place now to realize like their responsibility. I think that's the thing with all of us as individuals and whoever we are as a brand, we have a responsibility to give back, and we need to be thoughtful about what that giving back looks like and not just turn it into like a quick online tick box.
Yeah, well, yes, unfortunately that's quite often the case in this industry, isn't it?
Yeah, and also one thing that really surprises me is the lack of unity. When I see these campaigns, I'm like, imagine if 5 of us got together, put all that money into one pot, like, and all of our heads, and how much more powerful could that be? I still see a lot of fragmentation and people trying to be like, oh no, look at me, look what I'm doing, and it's like, but imagine if we all got together and could very likely have way more impact.
Yeah. Absolutely. So your journey to this eventual position is very interesting, I have to say. I've been reading up on it a little bit, such as it is, the information such as it is. Very interested to dig into it a little bit more with you. So yeah, tell me about early years. Sounds like you had a pretty interesting upbringing.
Yeah, early years was pretty tough for me because there was definitely a separation in genders, and the men were to work and the women were to stay at home and be married.
You were born in Cardiff.
I was born in Cardiff. In what I realized later was a much more stricter environment than most people.
Right.
When I was growing up, I thought, oh, this is how it is for everyone in my community or even within the Pakistani community. But I realized later that my family was particularly strict. So music was absolutely not allowed in the house. And yeah, it was very much, I'd say, like quite a muted environment. And it was a real conflict for me because I wanted to go to school. I wanted to meet people. I wanted to listen to music. And it was quite tough because the things I wanted to be, I knew in the back of my mind at quite an early age, at like 15, that I probably needed to leave my home in order to be those things.
Right.
Because there was no other way. It was either have the marriage and that was my escape, or leave my community behind.
Yeah, that must be a pretty difficult thing to realize, I suppose.
Yeah, I didn't realize it until later. Like, I made quite a big decision in my life at a very, very young age. While all my friends are partying, having fun and looking forward to university. And I'm sitting there going, I think I need to leave my family behind. And yeah, so I think maybe that's why I have quite a serious persona.
Right.
More than maybe most, because I've kind of carried this since that age. Yeah.
Sure. So, you obviously did, to some extent. I mean, explain, talk more about what that was in practice.
Yeah, after high school, I was meant to stay at home, and I found an escape to that. I found an all-girls school, and luckily got a place into it, got a scholarship there. And at the end of that, they had my dad come in and tell them that this is it, she's going to get married now. And
really, wow.
Yeah, and they said, well, it's the first time in my life someone asked me what I wanted to do. And I just sort of went, want to go to London. And then from that moment, there was months of planning and how that was going to look. And, the police were going to go to my parents' house and tell them I'd left. And my school was going to relocate me to a women's refuge in London. And yeah, it was quite I sat my last exams in some clothes I'd hidden from my home because I couldn't let my parents kind of get a sense that it was going to happen. And then, my teacher brought me on the train. The police went by and told my parents. And so all of a sudden, I'm in this women's refuge. And I remember
So how old are you at this point?
At the time, I was 19.
Yeah.
And I remember on the train, all the exhilaration of ooh, and then getting to the refuge and going, oh my God, what have I done?
Right.
What have I done? There's no going back, sort of thing. And then from that moment on, it was, if you're doing this, we don't want to know you. And me going, okay, I'm okay with that. And that you'll leave me to it, sort of thing. But it was always going to be that black and white. I was always, as soon as I left, I was going to go into be a threat to them and what they are. And, they had to protect my sisters and I had to protect myself. And
yeah, I mean, I suppose just having the option of it undermines the system in itself, right? And I suppose that's...
Yeah.
Okay, you're about 15 minutes into this episode, so well done for sticking around so long. I'm just going to take this opportunity to tell you about the ways you can support the show if you're enjoying what we're doing here. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/ScubaOfficial. You can donate to us with a one-off donation too, if you like, scubaofficial.io/support. But what we really want you to do actually is just like this video and leave a comment. Tell us what you think of it. Honestly, everyone says that, but it really does make a difference. And with that, thanks.
I mean, at the time, it was like 1999, I think, and girls just didn't do that. They didn't. And for whatever reason, at that point, I really wanted the police to tell my parents I wasn't a Muslim anymore. And for me, it was really important to make that distinction because I didn't want them to tie my future choices to, oh my God, she's a bad Muslim. So I was like, and I think that is something they still struggle with today, that I made that choice and then I left. And it just wasn't something women did back then, or even still do to a certain extent in that community. So I do acknowledge it was very traumatic for them to just suddenly be told this and not being able to do anything about it and lose a daughter in that way. I completely acknowledge it was a horrific time for them and still is in many ways. 6 years on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like you say, there's two sides to all of this kind of thing. Yeah. So what was what were the next steps then? Because I mean, there's a
bit of a crazy journey actually.
Yeah, exactly. We feel like we're only on part one of it or whatever.
Yeah, I think it was a year or so in. I was working at Topshop, Oxford Street. I'd go to the Hare Krishna temple for food because I was so poor. I was vegetarian and they were very welcoming. So I'd eat food there and go. And then my parents were keeping an eye on my bank account. So I'd made a purchase on Oxford Street, turned up. That person said, oh yeah, I had a really good conversation with that girl. She hangs out at the Hare Krishna temple. All of a sudden they turn up at the temple and they just stay there and they're like, we're going to wait until she turns up. And then one of the gurus recommended hiding me in the temple in Hertfordshire, and I ended up living there for over 2 years. So a bit of a crazy story. And at the time, it happened when I was really struggling with London. 19 years of being behind a hijab, I really didn't know how to do my hair in public and how to talk and socialize. And it was very overwhelming for me. So the temple kind of gave me a break from that. I think I definitely hid there longer than maybe I should have, because I just wasn't prepared for me in that setting.
Sure. I mean, London in particular is, that's going really into doing on hard mode kind of thing.
Yeah. It was exactly. If you were going to if you were going to break into socializing, like that was the toughest probably place you could do it in. But then, actually it was one of the girls who came from the school, came and visited me and was like, what are you doing? Like, you did all of this to leave and be yourself, and now you're in another religious, like, get out, So it was around, I think, 23, 24, I left the temple and started, some jobs, and then later came to music. Much later.
Right. Well, I mean, it was like a few years, like you were sort of 28, 27?
28, so I had my first club experience.
So tell me about that. That must have been.
Yeah, it was Andy C, Fabric.
Andy, Fabric. Wow. And, that is a good place to start, I have to say.
I got, my first experience, I was just obsessed. Every Friday, I was just going, I just couldn't get enough of it. It was like, sometimes it was like 3 club nights a week, and I was just so obsessed with going out, and it's the first time I was like, I think I might want to work in this.
Okay.
Because up until that point, I hadn't really figured out what I wanted to do. And I knew I had to justify why I left. Couldn't just jump around from one boring job into another. And then, I just happened to be at an event where Nils Frahm was playing.
Hang on a sec. Before we get there.
Go for it.
The initial appeal of the whole thing, how much of it was the music? How much of it was the kind of, the lifestyle around it? How much was it like, the community around it that you get around rave? Like, what were the kind of relative levels of importance of those things? Like, was it the music immediately? Or?
There was a few things, really. One was the space to just stop thinking. I was, up until then, just carrying that burden of leaving, and you're thinking, and then you just get lost in the dance, and you're like, oh wow, I just spent a few hours not thinking about it. That was one thing. The second thing was socializing. I really, really struggled with socializing up until then. And this was a place where you're kind of still semi-socializing, but you're not focused on each other so much, and you're dancing. And I thought, oh wow. So it kind of solved that for me. But then the biggest thing was that just physical feeling, that emotion, that connection, and just being like, just feeling that euphoria and a few other things going on in your body. And you're just like, wow, what a...
along a little bit.
Yeah. And you're just like, wow, what an escapism. But very quickly I started noticing the lighting person and the sound person and what's going on the stage, and started noticing the sound desk, and there's always kind of serious men standing at the sound desk, and I'm like,
absolutely, the most serious of men,
right? I'm like, I bet they work at the label, and I just started like saying hi to people. And I don't know, again, like I think because growing up, music was my escapism. Even though it wasn't allowed, I had a little tape player. I'd listen to radio and record the songs, and it was definitely my escapism from. It was my place that soothed me, but I'd never experienced it in a club or concert level. And then to be suddenly in that, the music just suddenly takes another, world. And I remember
physicality of it, right?
Yeah. And I remember seeing Bonobo live, and it was the first time experiencing electronic music in all its pieces. And he was on the guitar, and there was other musicians, and I was like, whoa, suddenly electronic music became bigger than just this, kind of computer sound. And it was just,
Well, there's nothing wrong with computer.
No, nothing wrong with that either. And then, Fortet was just playing constantly in London at the time. and, just seeing another Asian person on stage. And yeah, just something just pinged in me, but it was very emotional. It was very physical feeling. And yeah, definitely a lot of escapism.
Right.
Yeah, from the thinking.
So was there a moment at which you thought, this is actually what I want to do?
Yeah, it was definitely seeing Nils. I got lucky. Nils was releasing piano albums at the time, but he had a little side project that was electronic cello and some piano.
What was that called?
It was, I can't recall it now, but it was with Anna Muller, a cellist, and they'd kind of connected her cello into electronic sounds. And I got to see, that was my first experience of him live, and speaking to him and him sort of expressing that he can't find any help for his music and PR, and me thinking, maybe I could do that without any experience.
So what year are we in here?
Oh God, this was, let me think. I was 30 at the time. So what is that? 2000 and, wait, if I'm 45 now, it's 2025. What is that?
2010, it means.
2010.
Yeah.
And then I went to Berlin to meet with him, and there was Dustin O'Halloran, Johan Johansson.
Okay.
All these amazing artists sat there with all the same problem. No one wants to work with us. No one wants to represent us. But with Nils, I couldn't forget this electronic project. I couldn't forget that he had this electronic side. So when he was releasing all the piano stuff, I was like, get the synths out. Like, go back to that.
Yeah, right.
Sort of thing. And yeah, it went from, can I please help you with PR? And it just suddenly exploded, joined the label, and it just sort of rolled into one thing, into another and another. And
yeah, sure. Because when was there was a point at which suddenly he became like really, the trendy artist, right?
Yeah.
Partly as a result. And Marianne Hobbs was quite significant, wasn't
she? Was, yeah.
As she has been with many other people down the years.
Yeah.
So what year was that? I'm trying to remember. But it was like 2012 maybe or something like that, was it?
Yeah. So up until then he was releasing the piano, but live he was doing the electronics, the synths.
Yeah.
And people were confused with him because they were like, where is the stuff he's doing live? Where does that exist? So we made the decision to record it live and release that. Yep. And it just happened to be at a time where I was really getting in there with press and Marianne Hobbs. And
so you were working
for Erase Tapes, yeah. I was working for Erase Tapes, doing a bit of everything.
Okay. And Erase Tapes is like, how big was the operation? They're pretty small.
It was just me and Robert at the time. It was just us two packing the orders, the CDs.
It was have tiny staff.
Yeah, but I was loving it because it was giving me the opportunity to learn, about distribution. Even packing a CD was fascinating to me. And when we recorded the album, there was a big argument around which track we should release. And I was like, let's ask Marianne. Sent it to her, and she was like, Says. And Nils was like, why Says? It's got this whole big intro of like very little. It's just like one note.
Yeah, right.
And then she was so adamant, and we released it, and it just blew. Boiler Room wanted him to play it. She kept playing it like anything. We put it on SoundCloud. SoundCloud had this like algorithm thing, and it got big there. And then that album, finally his fans were like, he's got the album that he's playing live. And it just all made sense. It all connected. And then the electronic fans could come over. And, that was a big learning, that Nils really fitted into the electronic community. And that's where his fan base was.
Yep.
And that when we made that click and he started playing, Dimensions and the Boiler Rooms, and he did an RA video, they just loved it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it
made complete sense. Absolutely. Yeah. And it was
blue.
Totally. Yeah, it must be exciting.
Yeah, it was to go from like 100 capacity show to suddenly like 6,000, 2 nights at the Roundhouse. And remember him like taking me to the side and going like, what's going on? He was like, where were all these people before? Because it really did feel like overnight with him.
Yeah, it's funny that having a hit record, which is basically an ambient record, right?
Yeah.
History is a hit record.
Yeah. I remember other artists going like, Nils has ruined the Juno for me. He owns that sound now, the Juno sound. But I think what really hit people was seeing him live and just jumping on synths and the piano and this and that. And it was just so incredible to see that. And yeah, just to be on that journey with him, I just felt like yeah, it was just heaven for me, you know, and then started getting a name for myself as the piano woman.
Right.
You know, the person who sends piano music to the journalists.
Yeah, right.
Sort of
Because
thing.
actually that's something else that you do now, isn't it? You do events at the National, is that right?
Yeah, I was really fortunate during COVID, I was already doing them, and I was like mixing grime and piano and dance and piano. Yeah, I did one at the Union Chapel with Trim,
Really?
quite a character.
And Trim.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I coupled him with a jazz pianist, and
That is
it was
an
amazing.
unlikely combination, but
Yeah, I think it got a lot of press attention because people were like that. They were like, whoa. But for me, I had this vision of like a jazz pianist whacking the chords on the piano. And Matthew just did an incredible job of doing that. And then Trim did his thing at the chapel and swearing. And I could see the audience going like, whoa. And then, yeah, Union Chapel have been the National Gallery have been very kind and let me do it in one of their main spaces. And I still keep the spirit of, you know, hip hop with piano, dance and piano. You know, if there's an artist that plays a synth, they can pretty much play the piano. So
kind of.
kind of, yeah. So I often, you know, like Hanoko Omori, she's an incredible artist on synths. And I was like, can you play piano too? And I love that. I love having that moment where they're doing something they don't do out there already. And the audience just seeing that for the first time, but also at the gallery, younger kids are there as well. And, you know, listening.
So why is it piano with you? Is this something that happened accidentally or?
I have no idea. There's just something about when I saw Nils and the piano, and somehow I felt like I had an opinion on the piano about piano music.
Do you play yourself?
No, not at all.
Right.
Not at all. I think when you're around so many artists who play so incredibly, if there was a piano at my home, I definitely would play on it.
Have a little tinkle.
But no, some reason I don't know where it comes from. Somehow it unlocked inside of me, and some reason, I think I have some thoughts on production and piano and what makes good ambient music. I don't know why or where it comes from.
Clearly have an ear for it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Evidence would suggest, anyway.
Yeah, maybe all the years of not listening somehow created that situation. You know?
Right, totally. So how long were you at Erase Tapes for then?
5 years.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And how, at the end of that, do you feel like you had a pretty good idea about the workings of labels and the industry and all that kind of stuff, perhaps more than you thought you were going to at the outset?
Yeah, I definitely did. And I, at the time, was getting approached by other artists to work on their albums. And Nils was thinking about setting up his own label. And it just felt like the right time to set up my own agency and work with other artists. And I just got very lucky in the beginning. I got to work with Carhartt, Dishoom, the restaurant, on their vinyl release, and started moving more into brand work as well, and realized that I love people coming to me with a problem and then presenting like a creative answer to that. So like Sasha at the Barbican with the chamber orchestra was like a real highlight for me.
Yeah.
And just hearing what his feelings were as you know, him as a DJ.
I wanted to go to that show actually and was not able to. It's great.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was just incredible. Also just for him to get that confidence back as well and see another side of him untapped. And
I really like Sasha as a person.
Yeah.
He's such a nice guy. And actually he was quite significant in my early career as well, kind of mid part of my career. And I've hung out with him a fair bit. He's just lovely.
Yeah, he is. I think he's Welsh as well, right?
I think he's North Wales. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Liverpool fan. I think that's the kind of.
Oh, is he? I'm an Arsenal fan.
So am I. Yeah.
Oh, great.
We're good. Finally, a good Arsenal team. Awesome.
Finally, number one at the moment for now.
Absolutely. So I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh no, what was
Tape. Knowledge of like. Oh no, you were on to talking about the agency. In fact.
Yeah. So I got.
So this was like a promo agency, like PR. Is that what it was, kind of thing? Or
I'd set up my own label too. I'd signed artists. That's what the piano events were about. I was just like a kid in a candy shop. I was like, luckily making good money from brands and going, oh, what event can I put on and what can I do here? And with the label, I signed a drummer, which everyone was very confused about.
Okay.
A drummer who combines electronics, and I was like, you just don't understand how good he is. And just before COVID, he got invited to tour with Tom York just out of nowhere. So everything was going incredibly well, and then COVID happened.
Right. Okay.
So everything went on pause, and I didn't really revive Float after that. And then Beatport came along.
Right. Right. Okay. So yeah, you mentioned brands. Let me ask you about that. This has been a regular topic of conversation on the podcast going back a number of years. Obviously, I'm working with corporate money can sometimes be seen as being ethically questionable sometimes. I think broadly attitudes have changed quite a bit, maybe since we were both young in the 90s, obviously, very bad. Attitudes towards certain things have definitely softened, and it can be a really important part of an artist's way of making a living if you're able to do it in the right way and able to do it in a way which is, I suppose, consistent with your, artistic vision. What are your general thoughts on this? Like, to what extent does it need to be like carefully managed and fitting it in with everything else? Like, tell me your thoughts on how that stuff works.
Yeah, I think it's very personal. Like, I, for example, don't drink alcohol, so I'm not going to be doing a partnership or working ever with alcohol. So, alcohol brand. Yeah, I guess it comes down to you and what you're trying to execute. And alcohol brands do give a lot to organizations that are championing diversity, and if they're able to use that money for good, I think that's a great thing. I think it can be easy to look on the outside and criticize an artist without really understanding what the artist is experiencing. So I do think people need to just ease off a little bit. It is getting really tough for music brands and artists at the moment to get exposure, and if having to work with a brand allows them to do that, I have my lines for sure of things that I, even with Jashum, just spending time with the founder and just seeing everything they were trying to do as an Indian restaurant. And they were sick of people thinking, poor Indian food was Indian food. And they had a real mission and a vision. And for me, that's what I look for. Like, does this person have that vision? Is it for something good, even to the point of a restaurant? And then I'm like, yeah, let's work. Like, I'd say when I was doing Float, there was more things I said no to than I said yes to.
Okay. Can you be specific about what you said no to? Maybe be like, you can names if you want. The more names, the merrier, of course, but understand.
Yeah, major labels, for example, approaching me to be on retainer. I was more than happy to have conversations with them, but was not interested in working in that environment.
Why not?
Just, like I said, I would meet with them, but I felt like they wanted shortcuts. Like, how did you do it with Nils? And tell us the source.
The secret,
yeah. What's the secret source? And I'm like, how much money do you have now? I was like, go.
That's a reasonable question to ask.
Like, go figure that out yourself. Like, you've got a huge team, and don't try and steal it, from the underground scenes and, sort of thing. So, yeah, I think I've done an event for a major label thing, but I wouldn't want to work inside that system, and it doesn't work for me and the creative freedom I like to have and sort of the things that I'd like to do with an artist. I just see a little bit of stiffness in those environments and a lot of focus on revenue. And I think if we'd had that focus with like a Nils or whoever, we wouldn't have done a lot of the things that we did in the beginning.
Right.
So it's just not compatible with me. But that doesn't mean it's a bad setting for all artists. I don't believe in that. I think it's way more down to an individual. And yeah, if it's in conflict with you, then it's in conflict with you. But I would just ask people to just maybe inquire more before they make judgments.
Right. Yeah. I mean, people generally don't do that, do they?
No.
She's not on social media. Absolutely. So, any other notable things that you would not do?
There was definitely a lot of artists saying like, oh, listen to this, I'm just like Nils Frahm, or I'm just like Johan Johansson, and I'm just like this. And I remember once in Berlin going to an event and there was 5 artists I said no to, and just seeing the looks across the room. And I remember one saying, oh, but you worked on this, and being so offended and realizing that people really take it personally.
I mean, understandably to some extent, but also, I mean, you just have to get used to rejection, don't you, in the industry? Because most of the time, that's the answer,
Yeah, and I never set out to be a PR. I never wanted a PR agency. I just always wanted to try things that I'm interested in, and that could be in all kinds of things. And I never wanted to make my, key earnings from, doing PR for 100 albums a month. It was never going to be about that for me. So I was never, so saying no to a lot of artists was pretty hard. Like, they go from being nice and begging you to very quickly to, to that, especially the Berlin-based ones. But a few years in, I started working more so with a headphone brand and other brands, and less on the artist album side anyway, and enjoying things like the Sasha projects, like that felt really great.
Awesome. Okay, mindful of time.
Sure.
Normally our episodes are much longer, but unfortunately our AD ones will happen to truncate slightly.
No worries.
So, I mean, moving from doing that actually to what you've been doing at Beatport, it's a bit of a jump, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it is. And it came at the right time when I saw the role and that it was focused on diversity. And I was really questioning myself because I was like, wow, I've worked mostly with male artists and thinking about myself, my community, giving back, helping more women. It was the perfect kind of opportunity for me to learn as well, because I hired a consultant at the beginning called Vic, who's been working in diversity for 20 years. And I was like, download everything onto me. So I was learning as I was going as well. So yeah, it was a great opportunity for me as well to pivot and also ask myself, why have I done that? And why haven't I worked with more women? And maybe it's my time to give back, because I think for a long time I was just dealing with myself and surviving, and I didn't have the opportunity to sit back or even had the finances to sit back and go, oh, I'm only working with a load of male artists. I wasn't thinking, but now I do have that, and I should do that. It's my responsibility to do that.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, let's finish up by talking about what might seem to be a bit of a downbeat topic, but you made a point of mentioning it on your on the notes that we had in advance. Loneliness. Now, actually, mental health of musicians is something we've talked quite a bit about on the show before. Actually, we've done 2 episodes specifically dedicated to this with 2 different therapists. It's a really interesting and important area. Why loneliness in particular for you? Why is that the word, the kind of thing in particular?
Yeah, I think being a Pakistani woman in the industry and the nuances of the things that I grew up around, it's not an easy topic to discuss with anyone. Or the burden that I carry around. Some days I struggle to wake up and function, and think the day's worth it. When I'm having a bad day and I'm feeling the guilt of my family and everything that I did, because me existing and who I am is a conflict to my family. And when I left, I thought I would find community. But who I am, like as an example, being vegan and not drinking and
right. In the music industry.
I'm still in, and I think that was a big shock for me, because I thought, I'm going to come out and everyone's going to welcome me. And I was like, where do I actually fit in? And in that sense, it can be very, very lonely. You're like, who is my tribe, and who do I, where do I fit, and why do I have these thoughts that I have around, in terms of what caused me to leave home? And in that sense, there is an incredible loneliness, but lately I've been realizing a lot of my loneliness is actually grief. And in many ways, I've lost my parents multiple times, and I still will when they pass. And I lost them in the sense of they're never going to be a support system. They're never going to be what I would like as a version of parent. I left them when I walked away. And I think it's a lot of grief that I often feel. And that's where the loneliness comes in, because it's like, who do I talk to about this, and how does a friend understand this? And for example, I wore a hijab most of my life, and sometimes I'm walking around ADE and suddenly I'm like, oh my God, there's people, and it hits me. And if I talk to people about it, they're like, what do you mean? You're so social. What are you talking about? And that's where the loneliness comes in, that I carry a burden and thoughts and struggles that I often can't, people can't relate to them. So that's, the loneliness, and grief is something that I'm glad I have that word now, because I understand what I'm going through and the separation between that and what loneliness is.
Sure.
Yeah.
And to some degree, this ties in with your current work, right? I mean, like that is
yeah.
consistent.
Yeah, actually, Sherelle said that to me recently. She was like, because I was talking to her about all the work we've done at Beatport in the Black community, and she was like, like kind of challenged me and said, what about your own community, Sophia?
Right.
And I was like, good point. And, that's where my recent because I was never able, even though I left to study, I never had the opportunity to, like, finances were like, I had to survive. But now I'm in that better place. I just recently went to university part-time. Now I've just started my master's in coaching psychology. And yeah, I definitely see my future moving away even more so, working with artists in terms of PR and marketing and being like, hey, we're in this together. Let's figure this out, and maybe that will help me with the loneliness too.
Right.
Maybe there's some self-serving in there. I guess there always is. But yeah, that's where I see my future, is being able to sit down with someone and have a discussion as to what's going on in their life and how I can help, basically.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, listen, Sophia, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about.
Absolutely.
Music, not diving, with Scuba.